Welcome to the Behind the Bits podcast. Your host, Scott Curtis, wants to learn everything he can about stand-up comedy and take you along for the ride. Scott and his guests talk serious about comedy in every episode. Behind the Bits will uncover knowledge from different perspectives on subjects such as writing and performing stand-up comedy, as well as booking shows and the comedy life. If you're thinking about becoming a stand-up comic, already in the comic game, or a comedy nerd, Behind the Bits is the show for you. Now, let's get Behind the Bits.
Hey, BTB buddies. As many of you know, Behind the Bits won the Discover Pod's 2020 Annual Awards for Best Interview Style Podcast. My great guests got us in the finals, but your votes gave Behind the Bits the win. Thank you so much for your votes and support of the podcast. I pledge to keep bringing you interviews with great comedians that will take you inside the world of stand-up comedy. Thank you. I got Dwight Simmons with me. How you doing, Dwight?
Good, brother. How you doing, man?
I'm really glad to have you. I know some of these questions, but I have to ask them anyway. Where are you from, Dwight?
I'm from Indianapolis, Indiana. That's in Indiana.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Grew up in Indianapolis. Went to school at IU in Bloomington, and that's where I started comedy.
Cool.
Yeah.
And thinking about starting comedy when you were at Bloomington, obviously when you're at IU Bloomington, anybody that knows about IU knows that they have the Comedy Attic, which is one of the most respected comedy clubs in the country. And people don't get that, but I hear comics like Todd Glass being interviewed, and he's like, they ask what his favorite club is. It's a Comedy Attic. Stuart Huff, it's a Comedy Attic. Everybody loves it. So you've got that there, and I imagine that maybe you went to a show there and got the bug when you were doing that.
Definitely. I mean, it was when it first opened, it was a funny bone until Jared turned it into the Comedy Attic to bring in those bigger names that everyone wanted to see, which was really cool. And experiencing comedy in a nice intimate setting, the energy is just unmatched in there, and that's why you hear these big name comics say things like that, and that's how it's gained national recognition, on top of just like always being able to bring someone to a club right before they blow up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no doubt. So thinking about your first set, so what, first of all, when you were a kid, who were your comedy influences? Who did you watch that made you think that comedy is pretty cool?
Everybody. Like, I was pretty much obsessed with comedy. Stand-up was always on in my house. Grew up in a house where everyone had their own TV, not only in the living room, but also in your room. So I would always be watching, whether it was Premium Blend or Comic View, or I got really into old stuff like Richard Pryor, George Carlin. I found the Kings of Comedy. I found Eddie Murphy. And then I got into people like Maria Bamford. And so I watched everybody. I was just really a big comedy nerd, a fan of not just one particular style of comedy, but the art form as a whole was really drawn to. So, and that obsession kind of just keeps you in it until you're old enough to go see it live. Yeah. And that's a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
Watching someone on TV versus watching someone live, it's just a completely different experience. And when I started, my whole thing was, I'm just going to keep studying, taking cues from what people do well, physicality, what's the difference between like a host and a headliner, and then just trying to apply that to my sets every day that I did.
Yeah. What was your, first off, I got to ask everybody who names Kings of Comedy, I always got to ask who your favorite was.
Oh, it's Bernie.
Yeah. Almost everybody says Bernie. It's Bernie and then Cedric right under him.
Yeah, for sure. People don't realize Steve Harvey was filthy in that comedy. I know he hosts Family Feud, but the dude, he's come a long way from throwing the F-bomb around.
Yeah, no doubt.
Just yelling Survey's head. That's the American dream right there.
So what was your first time like? Where did you go up your first time?
My first time I was in high school, actually, at a talent show. I guess this counts as my first time. I really just, like I said, watched a ton of comedy and then just took those jokes and tried to do them in high school without the curse words. Obviously didn't go well.
Yeah.
And then once the Comedy Attic opened when I was in college, I went to the first open mic there and then just tried to like continuously keep doing it there. So I think like most people's first couple of times, it's just, you think it's good, but it's just awful. Like I wouldn't watch it today.
Yeah.
Without like throwing up.
You know, it's funny. I have to pay attention to social media because it's part of what I do for the podcast, but there's all these groups out there now that are giving advice to comedians and brand new ones, and which is great because having that resource is fantastic. But this guy posted that he's getting ready to do his first open mic, and should he bring people or should he not bring people? He knows it's going to be terrible, and people were giving him advice in that thread, and I finally had to get on and say, dude, it's your first time. First off, don't think it's going to be terrible. Have some fun, invite whoever you want, and just have fun. And don't worry about any of that stuff.
Rip off the Band-Aid. You're probably doing 3 to 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And you're, just stay focused. And a lot of places, you don't have an option if it's your first time. They make you bring people.
Yeah,
so,
no doubt.
If you're going to like an independent show your first time, just go have fun.
Yeah.
Just focus on saying words out loud on stage.
Yes. Yeah. That's definitely the biggest hurdle, being able to do that.
All the other stuff comes later.
Yeah. Okay. Now I like to switch gears a little bit because this is something every time I talk to somebody, I ask them this. Are you, inspired by any books that you're reading right now, music you're listening to, podcasts, articles? Has anything, jumped out at you and, flipped on that light bulb for you?
Yeah, that's a good question. I always try to find inspiration in things outside of comedy. Mm-hmm. Doing it in a pandemic is exceedingly tough. You spend so much energy worried about politics and worried about, your health and your family's health and stuff like that. Yeah. So it's been a little bit more difficult, but just go back to the basics. Like I'm a huge Bruce Lee fan of, So like his whole outlook on life, I find inspiration in that. This is really just taking comfort in who you are as a person and knowing that. So that you can go and deal with these other things that may be out of your control in a healthy way. Mm-hmm. I really like the podcast, Good One. It's a podcast about jokes as well, where they just break down a joke.
It really is good. Yeah, I love that one. That's one of the first ones I found when I started doing comedy.
Yeah, that one's great. That's great. My girlfriend got me a book called Creative Quest. By Questlove, the drummer for the Roots, which is I like it, but it's also like he's so prominent that some of his examples of how to find creativity are just kind of outlandish and wild.
Yeah,
they don't work for the average human being that have those resources.
Yeah, when you have your entire day and your entire week to devote to creativity, it's a little bit different.
It's a little different. Yeah. When you're very well connected.
Yeah.
Not everyone can call Dave Chappelle and be like, hey, you want to do some stand up at this block party?
Yeah. The last question I do for the rapid round is, what's your favorite comedy album or special, like Netflix special? And instead of just one, I like to ask for like your top three. What are your top three favorites?
Top three specials. Wow, that's tough. Let's see. I'll just say the first ones that come to my head. Probably Killing Them Softly by Dave Chappelle.
Mm-hmm.
Number one. Number two is probably Kid Gorgeous by John Mulaney. And number three, that's so hard. Number three is probably Bigger and Blacker by Chris Rock.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, that's always a tough question because that could change tomorrow.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no doubt. And those are definitely solid choices.
Yeah, exactly. I really liked Ali Wong's first special that she did on Netflix. I forget what it's called, but that one comes to mind too.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. So before we go off live, I got several people watching. Is there anything that you'd like to plug? Is there anything going on with you that people should know?
Yeah, I'm about to announce that I am helping with this fundraiser called the Indiana Independent Venue Alliance. So we're trying to raise a bunch of money for these independent venues, a lot of which I've performed at in Indiana, so that they can help deal with the COVID crisis and kind of keep their staff on. So probably going to announce that tomorrow. If you don't follow me, please do so on Instagram or Facebook. It's just Dwight _ Simmons, because we need the help and support to keep these venues in business.
Yes.
Cool.
Great. Yeah. Make sure you tag me on stuff so I can get the word out there for you too.
Happily.
Let's get into your style of comedy, because I was really impressed. So you get a point across without making white people mad in most cases. And I wondered how you came across that and how you are different now from like when you started.
Yeah. It's an interesting way of looking at it. Probably that's just from my upbringing, going to a from a predominantly Black neighborhood to Carmel, Indiana, which is predominantly white. Mm-hmm. Having both of those experiences as a kid and needing to use humor to kind of navigate through those waters, it definitely applies to how I deal with working out jokes or working out comedy. Our issues are, especially when it comes to race. It's not my goal to preach, although that definitely happens. Uh-huh. I think the first goal should be to be funny, and then you'll be able to, get your point across in a way that's a little bit more palatable.
Right.
And then, I feel like I've evolved that over the years since I've started. Maybe more nuanced is only because I'm older and probably more experienced and more knowledgeable about. So probably just a little bit more careful and probably more intentional than I was when I first started.
Right.
It's still a silliness, carefreeness, but I do like to talk about issues like politics and race and things that may be uncomfortable.
Yeah. Well, you're really good at sandwiching that within the silliness so that I guess it tempers it. So old white people like me get the message, but we're still laughing. You know what I mean?
Right.
and I like to consider myself pretty woke, but most of the people that go to a comedy club in Elkhart, Indiana, aren't quite so.
Right.
And you really, that night, really brought down the house. Everybody was, just having a great time. Everybody laughed, and it was really a good show for you. So, I think of a specific bit of yours, like the breakup bit. How did that come across? Because you do a lot. It's a lot of like relationship stuff and race stuff and everything all rolled into one. How did you put that together?
I'm trying to remember the bit you're talking about. The 'cause I have a couple of them.
Yeah, the first it's like breakup stories, and the first one is who was Malcolm X anyway? Yeah. And that's the end of that one.
Yeah, that's a true story that really happened to me. So I just needed. It was just so wild. We live in our, I guess, bubble, but that just seemed so insane to me that a person my age of a similar educational background, no matter what race, just wouldn't know who Malcolm X was. It just blew my mind. And it's stuff like that I feel like you just have to talk about. Just that's another thing where you're like, if I told you the story, you would be like, that didn't happen. Because one would be that ridiculous. And so that was like a starting point and a bigger chunk that I wanted to work through, which is how people deal with getting through breakups. I like to write in bits and then just kind of roll a chunk together, so that, and if I'm doing 45 minutes, maybe I have like 7 chunks. All right, we're going to talk about breakups and race, and then we'll talk about, the gym, but how does that relate back to the first 2 things that I did? And that, sets you up to have a good callback at the end, or, but it's funny because with that bit in particular, people would come up to me and be like, "You're not going to believe what happened to me the last time I had sex." It's like, I didn't want any of that information.
That's one thing about being a comic is after the show, people just think they can tell you their life story and all the sordid details. It's crazy.
So if you're good at what you do, then you're a friend to them.
Yeah,
you're their friend, right? Because you're personable and they feel like they know you a little bit because you've talked about yourself and your beliefs. So that opens them up, especially after the show, to go, "Hey, we're just talking to a buddy," right?
Yeah. It's kind of like being a bartender, but like up one notch from that.
Yeah. I've done both, so
yeah. So thinking about when you started and you really said, "Okay, this is something I want to do." First off, what were you studying at IU?
I was studying kinesiology.
All right.
And English. Yeah. 2 completely different things.
Yeah.
I wanted to be like a athletic trainer, like a sports team, or something like that. And then I always have loved writing, even probably as early as 4th grade. Just like to write, and just thought that was the best fit for me as a person that can't do math very well. So.
Yeah, it's funny because did you graduate in 2009?
2010.
2010. So you were there your senior year when my daughter was in her junior years. Okay. No, not her junior, her freshman year. So I think it's just crazy. It makes me really feel old. But so thinking about when you're starting to do the comedy and you want to do it serious, what was it that made you take that leap and say, "Okay, I'm going to be a comedian now"?
Yeah. Well, like I said, I was doing it in college, and I graduated and thought like I was just done with this hobby that I had because I, had to get a real job and like introduce myself to the world.
Uh-huh.
And I really wasn't doing it that seriously in school. Like I wasn't like I maybe hosted a couple weekends. I maybe did some guest sets, but nothing really where I could be like I'm developing this craft. But in like my first year, I moved to Chicago uh, with my girlfriend at the time. Got this job in sales that I hated. I was selling material safety data sheets.
All right.
Yeah, the software.
MSDS, baby.
Yeah, how exhilarating. You gotta love those. Would you like software to organize your acetone spreadsheet? Some school janitors is like, why is this your job? I was like, are you guys hiring? For sure.
Yeah.
So that job made me miserable. I wasn't in a healthy relationship at all. So that just kind of all fell apart at once. And then I was like, I just decided to go, do an open mic in Chicago. And I was like, oh yeah, this is what I need to be doing. So after I got laid off from that job and then broke up with my girlfriend, I decided that I was going to take a full run at doing stand-up. And yeah, that's pretty much it, man. I dedicated, several days a week to either, riding or driving throughout the state as I'd moved back to Indiana, driving throughout the state to do shows. It wasn't like it is now where, there's several different open mics and showcases and more independent things that are very useful to comedians now. I think we just had 2 clubs and then a show on Sunday that was a book show that you could go hang out on. Maybe do it a couple times a year, but nothing really consistent.
Yeah.
So it's just a lot of hustle. But when you're fired up and new, the hustle's super easy. So you're happy to go out of town and lose money just to do some time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's so once I got full back into it, I feel like I started to move up pretty quickly. Like I started to MC at the clubs here. Got back into, going to check out shows at the Attic. So I was working my way back in there and then doing just random one-nighters where I could like stretch time that I didn't have yet. Comics are like, you got 30 minutes? You're like, sure. And I'll figure it out once I get there. So yeah, doing, shows in rural Midwestern towns, like going up to Wisconsin and going to Martinsville, Indiana, and trying to survive it definitely shapes your style of comedy. It shapes I kind of pride myself now on being able to, perform in any room, no matter the demographic or where it is.
Yeah.
Because I've proven to myself that I can do that.
Yeah. I mean, if you can make it in Martinsville, you can make it anywhere. I mean,
yeah, I got that framed now, that quote.
Yeah.
It's on my vision board.
I mean, you go, man. It's so funny because my wife and I were always late to get a hotel when there was something going on at IU, like graduations and stuff like that. So we always ended up in Columbus or Martinsville. If we had the choice, we'd always go to Columbus. And if we got stuck in Martinsville, we knew it was going to be ugly. And those hotels there are just, I mean,
Yeah.
They're shitholes for one thing, but the other thing is there's always a bridal shower or something going on, or
Right.
a actual wedding, and you just see the people and it's like, man, you guys are like from the 40s.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what? You could just drive the 35 minutes to downtown Indianapolis.
Yeah.
You don't have to be in Martinsville.
Yeah.
You don't have to do this to yourself.
Yeah. I'm glad we don't do it anymore.
Yeah.
So thinking about what you were doing as far as, so you're leaning into it and you're starting to do the shows and stuff like that. What was it that got you into making the decision to make that first album, the Pacifist Aggressive?
Oh yeah, that's so I was probably, 6 years in.
Mm-hmm.
And I, even when I wasn't doing comedy, I never really stopped writing jokes and working them out. And I had, that accumulation of that first 6 years of just, all right, refining material.
Mm-hmm.
But I really wasn't writing like big new stuff. So the first thing was I had just moved to New York so that I could work on material and new stuff. But I wanted to make sure that I got the bits I wanted and been working on for 6 years. I wanted to make sure that I got them down. And I found out that you can just self-produce your own album. There's not really a consequence to doing that. You're taking a risk, but teaching yourself how to do all the things, like get it on all the streaming platforms and doing the recording and the producing and cutting tracks and stuff like that. You can teach yourself how to do all that, and I just felt like it was really time. And then I kind of scheduled out, 10 days to where places would let me run the 45, 50-minute set just so that I could have it down when it was time to record. Because what I found out when I moved to New York is that there's very few places, if you're trying to make a name for yourself, you don't want to be working on new material.
Yeah.
you never know an audience, so you want that grade A killer stuff.
Yeah.
But for me, that really wasn't fulfilling that need to grow as a comic. So yeah, I think just timing and a little bit of preparation. I just felt like I had a strong 45 minutes that I could put on a record. And so, and then just so I can move on to the next thing.
Yeah. It was strong. I really liked it. So did you actually do physical copies of it?
I did, but only like 100.
Yeah.
So yeah, mostly digital. I really wanted to push people to go buy it online. I mean, that's when it was still profitable for people to do that.
Yeah.
It's not so much anymore. But yeah, I really wanted that number one on iTunes thing. It was really important to me. So to push people to go buy it digitally. So that's how people listen to stuff anyway. So yeah. I also didn't want like 500 CDs in my car forever.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't really give a CD away anymore.
No. Does anyone under 25 know what a CD is?
Yeah, I know. I was cleaning up this area where I do the podcast, and I found like 4 or 5 unopened CDs that I had, and it's like,
what am I going to do with these?
Yeah, the stuff's on Spotify. What am I supposed to do?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So thinking about what you did after that, so you've got all this material, and you put it together, you put the album out. What was the next step after that? I mean, did that give you some confidence to say, hey, I'm going to really go for this and get a whole bunch of new material and be a big star, or what was the next step?
The next step was just to start working on the next hour. The next, thing. I've never really made a decision that's like, I've never made a decision based solely on let me go to try chase fame, which is probably why I don't have much. But also, it's like it's not like a career or goal of mine. Like I still want to do late night. I still want to do all these things, but I want to make good material and I want to keep myself engaged. And my goal, even with moving to New York and ultimately moving back, was I want to put myself in a position to be the strongest comic I can be. And that includes having fun and, growing as a person and relating that to my material. Hopefully, if you come to one of my shows, by the end of it, you're like, okay, I have a little bit of an idea of who that person is. And, so that's always been the number one goal. So when I was working on putting together my next hour, it kind of just happened a little bit faster, just because I was fully focused on that being the goal. Just writing and working out stuff.
Right. So as far as your writing's concerned, do you have like a writing habit? Like you get up every morning and you write X amount of hours or whatever, or does it just come to you and you go as it comes?
Yeah, I've tried several times to okay, this is going to be my writing habit, and it's just never it just never worked out that way. Like I'll probably, get antsy here and say I need to be writing every day, and then I'll do it for, a couple weeks, and then that'll be the end of that. A lot of my favorite bits that I've done have come as riffs or like off the top jokes, or just hanging out with friends, family, and real life experiences. And I think that's the best way that I write, is through those real life experiences and kind of being silly and trying to take as much as possible from those things. So I do need to be better about sitting down and, fleshing that stuff out. But it's just not as fun as doing it on stage.
Yeah, I know. And that's one of the things I noticed about you. You seem to be in the moment when you're performing, rather than, okay, I've got this list of jokes I'm going to do. It seems like you can move around. Have you ever come up with like a golden joke, just like right up there on stage, and at least the premise of it, and was able to turn that into something?
I have my my Black Atheist bit. Was kind of a riff off of a bit that I had where I was working out at a Christian community center.
I remember that joke. That's a good one.
Oh, thank you, man. Thank you. Yeah. So that's one of my favorite jokes that I've ever written, which is those, like, when you have a joke that's your favorite, it's never perfect in your mind. Like there's something else there. But that was one where I was just like, what do I identify as, like, masquerading around this Christian community center around these very stoic, if not pompous, human beings, shooting free throws. It's just like, I don't fit in here. It's the furthest thing you can go from a predominantly white community center for Christians, with Black atheists. So, I mean, that's my favorite way of. It means more because you're in the moment, and I did when I was working on my first album, I did the Bill Cosby thing, about Bill Cosby's drug dealer. Like, where's that guy? That was ripped at an open mic. Like, he's probably, I tried it several different ways. Like he probably has a mansion in the hills.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think a lot of comics like writing on stage and then going back and trying to refine it. But yeah, it's definitely an evolving process for me. Like I don't have one specific way. Like I'm always trying to jot down ideas and see what comes of it. It's been a little bit more difficult with COVID because I'm not going out as much. So Twitter is acting as a launching pad there. I'm using it more than I ever have.
What do you feel about? We were on same show last week. That thing, the roast thing. What do you think about doing the virtual stuff? Have you done very much of it?
Yeah, I did quite a bit at the beginning of lockdown in replacement of shows that I lost. It's a love-hate thing. It is, you're taking what's available because it's, in a sense, it helps keep you sharp and mentally ready. But you're not going to get the reaction of being in the room, obviously. But yeah, I don't hate it. I don't love it. I try to do shows that are kind of like the one that we just did, where it's like a different concept.
Yeah.
And not just me talking to myself in my pajamas for 45 minutes.
Yeah.
So yeah, I try to do like the fun, like variety shows.
Yeah.
I'm trying to toy around with doing something regularly that I stream. So I've been jotting ideas for something like that because, I probably won't take new shows until the spring, because I just want to see what happens with the state of the world before I power through with talking about Wendy's.
Yeah. I was a manager for Wendy's, by the way. That joke that joke's fantastic.
That hit hard.
I forgot about that. I'm glad you mentioned it. Thinking about that and the COVID stuff, it's funny. I was starting to feel a little bit nonchalant about it myself, and my wife and I are careful because we're not spring chickens, and I've had pneumonia a few times and stuff like that. So we're wearing the mask, we're doing everything we can. We don't eat inside, and I was just starting to get sick of it because I like to do stuff, and then all of a sudden 12 of my wife's family members had COVID at the same time.
Oh wow, 12?
And it all happened within 2 days, and they all, one of them babysits the other one's kids, and it just spread like wildfire, and one of them is in the hospital. And
man.
I see the, I don't like to get on a soapbox, but I see some of these, in-person comedy shows, and I know some people are doing it right for the indoor stuff, and I know some people aren't, but no matter how you do it, you can't stop people from doing stupid stuff. Like when you're standing there coming up and giving you a hug, and then you're putting yourself in danger, putting them in danger. So it just scares the hell out of me.
Yeah. It's, you don't know who you're in public with. That's the scary part, because you trust the venues. But when humans are involved in anything, it can go any amount of directions. So it's scary. I mean, Indianapolis's numbers are going up, as are several other states. So that's why I've kind of pumped the brakes. I'm going to do the shows that I'm scheduled for to finish out the year, but I'm definitely not taking new dates. So I don't know what comedy is going to look like for me in particular in the next few months. Probably more of the online stuff, so I better start to like it more. Because, I'm not gonna stop like writing jokes or trying to do shows or doing stuff like that. But I'm not doing the in-person stuff until, March, April at earliest.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's talk about something good that happened to you during the pandemic, the Bob and Tom gig.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So how does that happen? I mean, I had Brent Terhune on, a while back, and I talked to him about it, but how does that happen for a comic?
I think most of the time you just send in a submission packet of jokes that the show, might like, or just to show that it's like a resume. And this is what I've done. And the producer of that show reached out to me and asked me for some writing samples and gave me some prompts. And I sent those back to him. And because I've done the Bob and Tom show already a couple times, so they know who I am, which helps, I think. Plus I'm, I know pretty much everyone on that show. So, doing the writing sample, I know what the show's about. I know, the pacing, what jokes would work, because I'm not writing jokes for me, writing jokes for the Bob and Tom show.
Right.
So, they just wanted to see if I can do that. So, I sent that in and started a few days later.
That's great.
So that's always been a thing that I've tried to work on, is writing jokes for shows, just in case that opportunity does come around, because my comedy is a lot of race and politics, and especially now talking more about those things, and that's not what the Bob and Tom show is. It's silly stories and human interest pieces and stuff like that, which is also a good muscle to have. So that's been a great way to keep me sharp for like a nightly action that I have to sit down and do that writing.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it's just going on tangents and rants about my own feelings. Like, hey, remember to try to be funny.
Yeah. I got to tell you, I don't talk politics a whole lot in my act, or even at all, but my wife and I are just having so many what the fuck moments right now that we don't, it's just like, because, it's just, I can't believe, I just think that we as a, country, we just like to be lied to, and we don't care, and when it's proven to be false, we're like, he didn't mean it that way, and I just I don't get it, but that's about as much rant as I can do.
It's high theater.
Yeah, it's totally nuts, and I absolutely feel like the whole system is rigged against the people anyway. So it doesn't matter who's there. We just don't need that asshole there right now.
I feel like I want to stand and say, hell yeah, it's definitely going to happen. But I've been let down before. So.
Yeah. Well, I've been in some conversations, and the funny thing is I've done traveling to see the kids. So what we do is I've got one kid in Alabama and one kid in Virginia, and my daughter has my grandson, so we want to see him. So we have to make sure that we've been COVID free for 14 days, so we don't give it to them, and then we get an Airbnb somewhere, like we did Kentucky this last time, and we get together and do that. But when I was there, I was like, I saw so many Trump flags that I was like, you guys may think this is going to be a landslide, but these people vote,
Yeah. We'll see, man. We'll see. Yeah.
So getting back, I don't know how much of that I'll keep in and how much I'll cut out. But getting back to writing for Bob and Tom, when you heard one of your first bits done on Bob and Tom, what was that like?
To be honest, I don't listen to the show.
Okay.
100% honesty. I enjoy the process of writing it's becoming easier to get the jokes on, but that's just not how I spend my mornings. Like I try not to do anything comedy related, like in the morning.
Yeah.
Turn that part of my brain off. And even if I wake up to write, it's not writing comedy. Mm-hmm. So it being a morning show, I will say it's nice seeing my name on the credits.
Yeah.
So that's a fantastic feeling. But yeah, it's nice because, like I said before, it is exercising a different type of comedy that I do and am used to doing. So I do feel like overall it will make me a stronger writer and a better comic.
Right. Yeah. It's funny. I lived in Indy in the 80s for about 3 years, and I was East Side. I was over close to Washington Square Mall, and I used to listen to Bob and Tom religiously, and that was before they were syndicated, and I thought it was great, and I pretty much got burnt out, and I don't listen unless my wife makes me listen because she loves it. She thinks it's just fantastic, and she thinks the Willie Griswold is like the funniest guy on earth, and
that's so funny.
And he won't even talk to me about being on the podcast. I don't know what's up with that, but
the ice grill.
He's icing me. Yeah. But wow. It's just interesting, you know, people who write for other people. Some people really dig it, and some people they just want to write it and get done with it. So That's good. It was good being completely honest about that.
Oh no, yeah, I can't. Like I'm not. Like I said, my comedy, what I'd rather listen to, even if I did, like I like everything, but I like people that talk about issues that I care about. I'm getting a little older now, so I'm like really heavy into that as an art form, like specifically by Chris Rock's one of my favorite comics. So I love George Carlin and Richard Pryor, and I love Wanda Sykes. I love all these people. But there's an audience for everybody. There's no right or wrong way to listen to comedy.
Right.
It's just like hearing one of my jokes on there isn't like a high priority for me. or even getting the like accolade of, oh, they did one of my jokes on the show.
Yeah. Yeah.
So just having the ability to write for that show is pretty awesome because, as you said, they're a legendary show and they're still going. They're extremely good at what they do. So nothing but respect and really just honored to be a part of it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So one question has been in the back of my mind since we started talking. So your parents worked really hard to get you to Carmel, and then you do well in school and you go to college, and then you become a comedian. What was the reaction to you wanting to do stand-up comedy?
It was, I think, surprise, and then happiness, I guess. The surprise came because I didn't tell my parents I was doing comedy in college.
Okay.
And so when I invited them to a show in Indianapolis, they're like, "You do what?" They didn't know that I've already been doing it for a couple of years. So it kind of harkens back to, I didn't invite people to my first couple of shows, but by the time I was a couple of years in, I was okay. I wasn't great, but I still like knew I knew how to take the mic out of the stand. You know? I knew a couple of things. So they were surprised, and then I think they came to a show here at Crackers, and I did well. So they were like, "All right, I never told them that like I wanted to do it full time. We never had that talk. I just started doing shows more and more.
Yeah.
And then I told them that I was moving to New York to pursue it full time.
Mm-hmm.
And, they were supportive. They asked me if I needed anything, or, they knew I wasn't happy doing sales jobs or, trying to chase down personal training dollars. So,
yeah.
I think my parents, I'm lucky. They just want me to be happy. So I think they saw that comedy made me happy. And even to this day, they're extremely supportive about it.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. It's good to have that. I know some comics that the parents weren't too happy about it. So
yeah, it's called good parenting.
Yeah.
Or if you want that for your child.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell my dad I'm going to Martinsville for comedy. He's like, no, what are you talking about?
Oh man, make sure to keep the car running, whatever you do.
Exactly.
So, getting to where you would like to go, obviously you can't do everything you want to do, but say in a perfect world, where would you like to take your career from here now?
Yeah, it's funny because before COVID, like I had a pretty full calendar. I had this audition for Just for Laughs in Montreal.
Oh, wow.
I was really excited about, and all that got canceled and pushed. So I think just reflecting over the last several months, I want to, continue doing what I'm doing, but on a larger scale. I definitely, still have that dream of doing late night. I want to put out my next hour, however many years that is. I want to do that on a major platform.
Mm-hmm.
So want to take steps for that, and I want to develop, my own show and own brand. So right now is, I don't know what that looks like over the next few months. So there's a lot of figuring that part out of it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I definitely want to make a name for myself, and I don't want to, be beholden to other people on different shows that I find fun. And so it's sort of like a point of building kind of a fan base,
mm-hmm.
and then building kind of a brand where you can have that sort of control.
Right.
So yeah.
It's the marketing technique, 1,000 true followers and you're okay.
Yeah. The true fans.
Yeah, true fans. That's it.
Yeah. Love that.
I always get that wrong, and I read the book. What do you think is the best piece of advice you got from somebody while you were coming up?
Best piece of advice is probably from a comic named Keith Alberstadt, who is a clean comic. And I think, his way of looking at comedy really kind of inspired my own. His advice was just, you have to work hard. There's no other way around it, because there are so many funny people right now that the only thing that differentiates you from all the other funny people is how hard you work a lot of the time. So that's been my golden rule, is if I can just, kind of stay on top of things and work hard, I can at least have that part of everything controlled. And then I don't turn into this bitter comic that's been doing it for a long time.
Yeah.
Because that's a fear of mine, like doing when I was first traveling and doing shows with these comics that are just beaten down because they didn't get what they thought they should have, or just so bitter. And I was like, I never want to be that person. I never want to be that guy that's just just haggard.
Yeah.
Like, it should have been me.
Yeah.
Coach would have put me in fourth quarter. We would have won state.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't want to be that guy. So yeah. And I'm lucky. I do a lot of cool stuff. So yeah, I kind of want to be a voice of reason and change, and the way that people look at stand-up comedy as an art form. Yeah.
So what 3 things do you know now that you wish you would have known when you started?
Always take merch with you.
Okay.
Merch will change your life.
Yeah.
Have patience, and learn how to come back after someone tells you no properly. Yeah. Just because someone says no once doesn't mean that no lasts forever.
Yeah.
So, yeah, those 3 things are tremendous.
Yeah.
I think, definitely. As you see people that do merch, and you can quadruple your pay just by having good merch, and that really helps you not take every single gig. You're not taking every gig for money.
Yeah.
You can make that up. So
I think Bob Zaney perfected that. He's definitely good with the merch.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So final question is just for you and for me, because you're a craft beer guy. What craft beers are you enjoying right now?
Well, right now, currently, I'm having a Marzen.
Okay.
From beer here in Indianapolis. It is that season, so I'm starting to get out of the session IPAs and more into the dark beers. I had what did I have yesterday? I had a milk stout from Left Hand Brewing, which was really good.
I like Left Hand stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So it wasn't their normal one. It was it wasn't the nitro one, but
okay.
It was really good. And I'll drink Elvis juice all day. It's a grapefruit IPA from Brewdog. That's probably my go-to.
Yeah.
So good. Doing a vertical of Dark Lords this Friday with a group of people. So
cool.
I'll be resting my mind, body, and spirit and liver for.
That's great. My son-in-law took me to a brewery. It's right outside of DC when I was there, and they were having they were like a new release. And it was like it was a darker beer, and I can do dark beers. I can do like one, but I can't do, I'm more of an IPA guy, but he told me that, they've got like 500 like Mug Club members, and, that he will probably never ever get to be a Mug Club member because the waiting list is like 50,000 or something. Yeah. It's called Aslan Brewing, and their beer is really, really good. But it's just like, it's so different because I can go into any place around here and get in their Mug Club, give them $50 and I get bigger beers, it's really easy.
That's funny.
Yeah. But we walked out with a lot of beer. We just didn't get everything he wanted because the Mug Club people got to buy it up. So
the perks.
Yeah. All right. Well, I tell you, it's been great talking to you. I hope to be able to share a beer with you sometime.
Yeah, likewise, man.
Yeah.
Likewise.
I wish you the best of luck, and I like your stuff, and I like where you're going with it. So I really hope that this COVID goes away and you can do what you want to do.
Well, I appreciate it, man, and likewise, dude. I hope it goes away as well. We'll see, but in the meantime, gotta stay safe and take care of each other.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, thanks for being on the show, Dwight.
Of course. Thanks, Scott.